afternoon. Oops, sorry. We're already here. Good afternoon and welcome to the Capital Investment Committee meeting for August 22nd. The first item of order would be consideration of minutes from June 27th, 2019. May I have a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. 4-0. Number two, consideration of road impact offset agreement with NR. What's that? NR. What does that stand for? None?
That's just the name of the property owner.
Okay, NR. Okay. McEwen Property Owner, LLC, for the McEwen Place PUD subdivision. Engineering?
So this is a requirement that they put in a traffic signal at West McEwen Drive in Aspen Grove. It's on the signal master plan and therefore qualifies for road impact fee offset. The amount is,
Mm-hmm.
$402,205.50, and we are recommending approval.
All right.
And
It's been a long time coming. So I thought, do you have a second?
Second.
I thought that was slated for a roundabout.
it is not.
It was.
Was it at some point? Okay,
Oh, it
I've not
was.
seen that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've not seen that or been a part of that.
We're just going, I just
intersection.
want to go on record saying that we're adding to more buildup again, because that road already builds up with the stop sign, and you'll have 20 cars sitting there at the stop sign, just triple and quadruple that for a light. That was an ideal place for the roundabout because the space was available. And the residents over there and HOA, we had talked about that. So I don't know how that came, because we had really talked about the roundabout there. Now, that's no longer my district, that's Dana's.
This PUD's been around for a long time, and as far as I know, it's always been a traffic signal at this location outside of
All
McEwen
right.
Town Place.
All right, so all in favor? Do you have a all in favor? Aye, everyone? All right, so it'd be 4-0 on that one. All right, number three, consideration of change order number one for the contract for the Jim Warren City Park Tennis Courts reconstruction with Tennessee Valley Paving Company for the increase of $221,095.20 and with a time extension of 19 days.
So when we got out there and excavated a lot of the base stone of the existing courts, the subgrade was in really poor condition and was pumping heavily. And to make sure that the tennis courts last many, many, many years, we decided that it all needed to be undercut, and that was an additional cost or an item outside of the scope of the contractors. And so they performed it, and they did it quickly, and so we're recommending payment and a time extension of around 19 days for that additional work.
Second.
All right, the increase is quite substantial.
Yeah, then the whole courts basically got undercut, or a substantial amount of it, and then shot rock had to be brought in, and geotextile fabric had to be brought in, but
How
their pricing is all in line with what you would expect to see.
How did we underestimate that?
We didn't have it included in the bid undercutting. We assumed that the existing subgrade of the tennis courts, once we excavated, would be sound because they were already in place, and we didn't expect to see it as bad as it
It was in
conditionally
worse, yeah, it was in worse shape than we thought.
Okay.
And we don't know
Once
that
we
till you
got-
remove the existing
Once you got in
pavement.
there?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Passes 4-0. Number four, consideration of professional services agreement contract with R. Rhett Turner, MAI for McEwen Drive, Phase 4, review appraisal services in the amount of $51,400.
This item actually really does go with item number 6, but we're excited that we're submitting plans hopefully this week or very early next week to TDOT for the McEwen Phase 4 project. Once we do that, we'll get the notice to proceed for right-of-way acquisition is what we're working on, and both of these are the federal requirements for review and appraisal, and that's item 4 and 6. And prior to doing that, we will try to get with the property owners and set up some type of meeting to let them know how that process works. And generally, we send appraisers out to meet with them. They look at the property, they share the appraisal with them, and then we make offers to start the acquisition of property. So we're excited to be moving forward with it. And so far, the project's back on track, and we're trying to get it out as quickly as we can.
When you say review appraisal services, what does that entail? the review? I
So-
mean, it's not the actual appraisal.
It's basically the same thing. They take the appraisal that the original appraiser did, and they're both qualified and licensed to do this kind of work for transportation projects. It's a separate appraiser that takes the first appraiser, looks at it and says, does all his assumptions, are they correct? Do I agree with those assumptions? So it's two sets of eyes looking at the same document.
So is this going to, in the end, get us the appraisals we need?
Yes, this is the appraisal process.
And
This is
item-
item 6.
Item 6 is the actual appraisal.
Right, I saw
And
that.
item 4 is the review.
All right.
So it validates the.
Yeah, correct.
I
the
was just
value.
a little concerned about the word review. All right. All in favor, motion, please?
Move for approval.
All in favor? Aye. Passes 4-0. Number 5, consideration of professional service agreement, contract with Alfred Benish and Company for the final design, I'm sorry, of the Old Paintonsville Road and Long Lane Bridge Connector Project in an amount not to exceed $585,310.50.
So I got to compliment Jonathan. We've been watching the CIP and knowing which projects would be funded or assuming which projects would be funded. He went out and we started to get some of these scopes of services that you're seeing here today so that we could start delivering on these projects. This is with Alfred Benish, who did the original conceptual design over I-65. I want to be transparent and say that this design at this point includes the gap section on Long Lane and all the way to Peytonsville Road and the signal. It does not mean that we have to bid all of that, but in our opinion, it makes sense to survey it, get the design done, and once we get to a right-of-way set of plans, we can start engaging the public. We can bring back cost estimates to the board to see which pieces you want to fund. And if you remember, the original one was basically from 5 Mile Creek over to the Ag Center, and there were 2 gap sections that we've decided to include in the design. But again, we'll bring those back to you long-term to see what you want to proceed with construction-wise and right-of-way acquisition-wise.
How much can you leave when you're going over the interstate? I mean, you can't do half of that. So if you just do
Yeah.
that, and it's a bridge to nowhere. I don't know how you phase that kind of
So,
project.
so what
Help
originally,
me.
what originally was gonna happen is
Sorry.
we were basically gonna build the bridge itself, then we were gonna connect to the 2 roads on either side.
Right.
But when we were gonna do that original project, the state hadn't done their section of Long Lane or Peytonsville, or not Peytonsville Road, but Goose Creek Bypass yet, so they built the section of Long Lane. So if we went with the original plan, that short, that 1/3 of a mile gap between where we would stop and where the state stopped, we would have left that in front of the Ag Center.
Okay.
And the other side of that, now that Berry Farms has progressed much further than what we originally had shown with the original preliminary plans, we're also planning, once we have that open, all the traffic that comes across through there, we want to make sure they can get out onto Lewisburg Pike, so we're planning for a signal there long-term. And also, if we're going to do all of that work, we're at least going to look at what are the upgrades needed for the section of Old Peytonsville Road between the original project and that signal.
But I still don't understand how you phase it, because if you're gonna have the bridge built, people are gonna use it no matter what the intersections look like.
They will.
You know
and
what I mean?
They will. It's just a matter of whether you want to go ahead and build what the permanent section will be. You get in there, do one big project at one time, and that's your ultimate roadway section, or whether you want to piecemeal it together over time.
Okay.
And we put in the plan, from a planning perspective, the CIP project is the full,
The full
Full.
bill.
Correct,
all
full
elements,
build-out.
the
Full
full
build-out.
build-out. That's what
Yes.
we planned for, but you'll still give us guidance on that as we do this work.
Well, I really don't know what you think. We don't know any more about it than you do. I think you all ought to decide and tell us what needs to be done. Because we don't know.
And we'll definitely bring it back. I think it'll just come down to cost as we start updating estimates and look at how that fits into the CIP. We want to make sure that every step of the way on all these projects, we're making sure that you understand it.
Move for approval.
Second.
Yeah, I'd rather do the whole project at one time if we could, and I'm not in favor of piecemealing it. And we need to find a way to do that. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, passes 4-0. All right. Number 6, consideration of professional service agreement for contract with Richard Maddox, SRA, for McEwen Drive Phase 4 appraisal services in the amount of $77,100.
This is the McEwen actual appraisals. So,
Let's move this on. Do I have a
Move for approval.
motion? Second. All in favor? Aye. Passes 4-0. Number 7, consideration draft professional services agreement for a contract with Alfred Benish and Company for the design of West Main Street Bridge widening in the amount not to exceed $55,134.
this
Can't
is-
believe this.
Mark,
moved to
are you
table
okay?
to the 20th.
Are you okay? We
All
fan
right,
you?
okay,
We fan you?
okay, let's talk about this just a minute. It says, oh, yes,
First
yes.
of all, may I have a motion?
I move for approval.
Second.
All right.
Now-
We have a motion with a second. Go ahead, Margaret.
Given the age of the bridge and based on field observations, it is not possible to determine the depth to competent rock. I thought this bridge had just been redone, and that's what's the matter with it. It was narrowed when it was redone.
It was narrowed when it was redone, but when you're replacing a bridge like that, like a box culvert or a box slab bridge, you're only excavating what you're actually building the bridge back. So any further excavation beyond the original bridge footprint, you don't know exactly what's beneath that, and it's really just a foundation issue of the bridge. It's not a huge complication. Once we get out there and start doing design, we'll know what we're gonna run into.
Okay, if it's so simple, why is it gonna take so long?
There's all the utility poles
Yeah.
on the north side of that bridge, and we're gonna have to figure out where those utility poles go and whose yard they go in and how we widen the bridge and who it impacts. And so there's some issues that we gotta work through on that project as it relates to utilities.
And permissions from TDOT to do it because it's a state route.
And it's a state route and there's
I
permits.
still
so-
think my board bridge would have worked just as well,
It
just
gen-
to make a plank across there for the people to walk on.
And generally speaking, these bridges will take about a year to design and get utilities on board with them.
Well, they've already designed, right? This is designed.
This is to do the design.
Okay. I'm finished.
I feel your pain for McEwen, and same thing, it does take quite a while, especially when the state is involved.
Let's
Don't-
hope we can get this bridge built before it becomes the Margaret Martin Memorial
Yeah.
Bridge.
Don't count on it. Don't count on it.
All right, we've had a motion and a second. We've had a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Passes 4-0. Number 8, please. Consideration of professional services agreement contract with Volkert for the design of intersection improvements roundabout concept at Liberty Pike and North Royal Oaks Boulevard, Maury Lane, in the amount not to exceed $466,295.
So if you'll remember, we worked through
Go ahead.
multiple options in Resolution 2019-18. The board selected the roundabout concept. This is a professional services agreement to move into that final design to get to right away and ultimately bidding and construction.
All right, may I have a motion, please?
Move approval.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Oh, three to,
I'm gonna go to the end.
You gotta just
fine.
dig in and be bitter.
Let
passes,
me say that on the microphone. No.
it passes 3-1. Number 9, consideration of request for water and sewer availability approval for consideration of request for water and sewer availability approval for 3631 East McEwen Drive.
So we're gonna pull this one for the next CIC and work on an alternate solution with the homeowner.
All right, so you just want to pull this?
Yes,
Yeah, we'll
please.
pull
All right.
this, yeah.
That, we will pull it. Number 10, consideration of a request for water and sewer availability approval for 1852 Wilson Pike.
So this property is bordered by a railroad. The most logical way that this would connect to an existing infrastructure is underneath the railroad. Not feasible for a homeowner to do. So we're recommending denial.
All right, let's see, where is this located on Wilson? Because I'm looking at the map and it's not, is that at the end of McEwen, right there? I was looking at this map and I couldn't determine where you were talking about.
So it's a driveway off of the intersection of Wilson Pike and McEwen.
Is it where that
The
red,
driveway goes all the way
The
back.
driveway goes all the way back to the property, yeah. The property isn't physically on Wilson Pike.
all the way
Goes
back,
all- That's it. Yeah.
right there? All right, so it's at the end of the location, all right. All right, so say this again, Michelle, so what is the,
No, I'm sorry, I've got the wrong,
is
I'm
this,
sorry.
this is,
no, I've got the wrong one.
this is on the other side of the railroad.
Yeah, this one is actually, we have, I'm sorry, I got confused.
Yeah.
We have an agreement with Brentwood. There was an agreement that was signed back in 2007.
Yes.
That sewers along that area, sewer along that area would be sent to Brentwood. So to go through the process, we are recommending denial so that they can
Brentwood will serve.
can
Okay,
retreat
this
those
says
flows.
consideration request for water and sewer. So you're asking for denial on this?
Yes. I believe that I
This doesn't
attached
say
the,
denial. This is not a request for denial. This is a request for sewer and water availability.
oh,
So
let
I
me pull
thought you
this
were
out.
asking for denial. Usually you say request for denial when you have, on the agenda. Usually if you want us to deny it, you're asking for denial, you're asking for a request here.
Oh, I had this, okay, I have this all wrong.
All right, let's
was-
back up, let's back up. The number 9 that we just did, you pulled, and that was at 3631 East McEwen Drive. So we pulled that as you're working something out with the
We have a
homeowner,
different
correct?
approach to provide
Is that
service
correct
there.
on that one?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So number 10 then is at 1852 Wilson Pike. According to this, it is back in that long driveway. It does
Yeah, this
not
is-
touch the railroad.
But it's in,
This actually, so in the
Mm-hmm.
attachments, the memo on this one is wrong, and I apologize for
Mm.
that. So in the attachments is the actual agreement that, the ordinance that was signed with the city of Brentwood.
Agreement, okay, let's look at that.
sewer boundary agreement.
So it's the contiguous boundary separating the two cities in the area south of Split Log Road, that those would go to the city of Brentwood.
Says whereas the city of Brentwood and Franklin desire to adjust their boundaries southward so that the contiguous boundary will lie north of the right-of-way line for a section of the proposed McEwen Drive extension in areas which naturally drain into Brentwood will lie within the Brentwood corporate limits.
Right.
All right?
So the memo needs to be revised, so
You're still denying service, aren't you?
You're requesting to deny, right?
we're requesting a denial, yes.
Okay.
for the
Consideration
city
of
service.
request to deny water service and availability. That's the way it should read.
Is that
Right.
is that in the city limits?
Yes.
In Franklin city
Franklin
limits, yes.
city limits?
But it drains to Brentwood.
But it drains to Brentwood, and in that agreement that was signed back in
Mm-hmm.
2007, I think it was.
Yeah.
Right. That's right. And it should go into Brentwood.
Okay.
Okay. Are we all clear on that? All right. Do I have
I
a
move
motion?
I move that we deny the request.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right. All in favor? Aye. Passes 4-0. Thank you, Michelle. Number 11, consideration resolution 2019-65, a resolution authorizing condemnation for the acquisition of easements for Shadow Green sanitary sewer project.
So this is for the address 2009 Columbia Avenue, which is the Burger King right there. We've not been able to come to an agreement, and so this is just the initial process to move getting that easement into condemnation.
All right, may I have a motion?
Second.
All right, is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Passes 4-0. Number 12, consideration resolution 2019-69, a resolution authorizing condemnation of acquisition of easement for the Shadow Green sanitary sewer project. Again, is that,
Yeah, this is the same project. This is the next couple are on Alpha Drive, so that line is moving back following
right,
that
I
creek.
saw that was on that other property.
So this one's 104 Alpha Drive.
All right, do I have a motion?
Move for approval?
Do you have a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Passes 4-0. Number 13, consideration resolution 2019-70, a resolution authorizing condemnation of the acquisition of easement for Shadow Green sanitary sewer projects.
This is the same thing, 112 Alpha Drive.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Passes 4-0. Number 14, consideration of resolution 2019-71, resolution authorizing condemnation and acquisition and easement of the Saddle Green Sanitary Sewer Project. And what address is this, Michelle?
116 Alpha Drive.
116,
This is the
right?
last one.
All right.
Move for approval.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye? I haven't heard. All in favor? Aye. All right. Passes 4-0. Number 15, all right, we are down to the project status, water and sewers, project status, please, Michelle.
So the first one for South Prong, we just working through. It's in legal right now to give Hazen and Sawyer an amendment to work on extending that line. So it ended kind of west of 65 by Walmart, and so we're doing an amendment to extend that all the way up to about McEwen. So we'll need additional design, and there'll be additional easements that'll need to be received for that.
All right,
So that's moving along. Henpeck is going well, so they're going to meet substantial completion for the area in front of the school
okay.
by the.
But when's that going to happen, by January? Or, they're opening school in January there, right? Or is that not correct?
Not this site.
This is the Henpeck in front of the new Oakwood School.
Yes,
Yes.
They're not gonna open school.
in January?
Josie Hill.
No, middle school will
Oh,
open
okay.
next school year.
All right,
Yes.
Got it, okay.
This is for the, yeah.
That's
Goosey
the
Hill
one
is a
opening in
different location.
January, okay,
So this one's on track and on schedule.
okay.
And then for the wastewater plant, we are working on pouring the base slab for the equalization basin, working on pouring some concrete for the headworks and the new solids buildings.
All right.
I could go on more, but I know you don't.
How about the Holiday Court Pump Station project? Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on there?
Yeah, so we are, for that one, we're working on finalizing the bid package to hopefully get that advertised in the next month or so. All of the easements we've gotten all the easements and all the design documents are done. We've just been working through kind of revising the front ends that the city uses to kind of correspond with some of the templates that are a little bit beefier than what we were at, EJCDC.
So when you say you're
Contract.
upgrading the existing pump station, you're just bringing it up to date, or is there?
No, for this one, we're actually, so the old station was what we call a can station, which was, you kind of crawled into literally a can. We're making this a larger submersible station that's a bit safer. It's a bit, it's kind of what we would like in our department to standardize around.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on this? All right, then we will move on to item 16, capital project status reports. Engineering.
I'll hit on a few highlights here and certainly answer any questions you have on any other project. MacAtcher Parkway, northwest section, obviously TDOT is controlling the construction on that. My understanding is the contractor is still on schedule with that. One of the biggest updates is the next few weeks, you'll see them start to work in the intersection of Hillsborough Road. So you'll start to see some work get out there. And they have an interim milestone to actually have the work in that intersection complete and paved back by, I believe it's the end of May and next year. So that you'll start to see them work on that.
There is a sidewalk.
We will get a
Yes.
sidewalk,
There will
yes.
be a sidewalk.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
There'll be
Yes.
crosswalks.
West Haven Boulevard traffic signal, that goes out to bid in the papers this Sunday. We'll get the bids back middle of September, I believe September 17th.
Which one are you talking about? The
West Haven traffic signal.
Traffic signal? Okay.
Why is, I know every time we meet, I ask the same question and I get the same answer from everybody. But I still want to know how the traffic signal got in so quickly on Franklin Road at the Legends when this is taking years and years.
There were years of planning for that signal too, because they came through the development process, they coordinated utilities. You just didn't see that going on for many, many months. But as the developer came through that approval process, they were working at the same time to do that.
Well, when they got permission for those apartments, that traffic signal, they said they were gonna put that in. That's the first I'd heard of it.
Yeah, but they had been working with staff on submittals well out in advance of that.
You like years?
Yeah, at least a year. It might have been more, yeah, it might have been two.
trust me, it was.
It was a long time.
Okay.
Sorry. But, all right. Next.
I'll
any
also hit on
else?
the tennis courts at Jim Warren Park. If you've driven out there lately, it's actually starting to look like something out there. You can actually see blacktop down, there's pavement. So they're planning on getting out there the next few days and putting the final surface on there, the final asphalt surface. The first surface, no, it'll be more asphalt, and they're gonna let that cure, and then they'll come in and do the actual court surface. Yes, it will.
No, they'll be green.
Yeah, it'll be hot, the next few days. And then one project that'll be added to the list is we just received bids yesterday or the day before yesterday for the reconstruction of the pavement out there at the solid waste facility at Century Court. So you'll see that as a resolution to approve that construction contract, along with some other minor utility modifications on site at next Tuesday's board meeting.
And bidding of Franklin Road this fall, you have time frame?
Yeah, it's probably later fall, and then an award probably in the November, December, January timeframe right now. But right now, we're finalizing easement acquisition, and that's gonna be the big question. There's about 8 properties that are gonna end up having to go through the condemnation process. And so we're working with our law department now to get those court dates scheduled. And once we figure out when those court dates are scheduled, then we can really set a time frame, and we may even be able to evaluate bidding early without those easements, knowing that the award process takes some time to actually award it through the Board of Mayor and Aldermen and schedule pre-construction meetings. But in September, you should start seeing a lot of the right-of-way acquisition settlements coming through. Thank you.
I know this is about half the cost of McEwen, according to what we have here in front of us, but, you know, we're getting ready to go out to bid on this, and I can't even get a bid to go out to bid yet on McEwen after how many years? I mean, really, it's tough to watch that when we've been, you know, you guys have been dealing with it a long time. So I know we just talked about it. We're going to go to the appraisal. Do we have any other issues with the state to move forward?
No, not this time. It's really just about getting through their process and getting permits put in place. And I'll tell you, the second you put federal funds in a project, it's 4 to 5 years to get that project done, 3 at best. And when there's no state or federal funds, we're generally about 2 to 3 years to get those projects
Yeah.
done and acquire right away.
Yeah, and then they made promises that they really, you know,
Bev,
said, we'll move it ahead, but,
I want
all
to
right.
talk about condemnation.
pardon?
I want to talk about.
Okay, you go right ahead, Margaret.
You said you had about 8 properties left.
Yes, ma'am.
Wasn't there a
Now,
time when
ju-
the
let me just reiterate
Franklin Road.
that we're on Franklin
Yeah.
Road
Yeah,
again.
that's
I just
right.
wanted to make sure we change
Yeah,
back to that
Franklin
again.
Road.
Thank you.
Didn't you say at one time that we just had 1 or 2 left? Has that changed?
I don't remember saying that. It's always been about 8 properties that we've been struggling with now for the last month. And so that's we're working now with law to turn those over, update appraisals, and so that we can establish court dates to get the orders of possession is
Okay.
where the big push
Okay.
is
All
now.
right. Thank you.
Alderman Peterson.
I happened to be out in that area and spoke to someone, and admittedly, it has not been in the last week or two, I don't know, but he said he had not heard anything from the city about his piece of property in a very, very long time. I mean,
Yeah.
as I say, you may have made a contact since I spoke to him, but as I say, he was just saying to me, I haven't heard from the city in,
Yeah,
I don't want to say a year, but maybe he
there
did
were
say
about
it.
2 or 3 properties where the easements were slightly changing and modifying, and until those got done, we did not make offers. But my understanding now that that's all done and offers have been made. And so we know that there's 8. We hope to reduce that number down if people start accepting those offers. But our plan is to just move them all to start establishing that court date, so that in the event they do say no, that we're trying to expedite the project to get it to construction.
So at this stage, everyone has received an offer that should have
Yes.
received an offer on Franklin Road.
And the other thing is, there's some of them that are very, it may only be a few, but some of them that are very difficult because it's going to take up so much of their parking and things like that out in front, and signs and things like that. And maybe I've just talked to you privately about some, a couple of particular ones. But, I mean, we've had a little problem with kind of making people go out of business in another area and everything, and so it seemed like this might be a possibility there, because whenever I looked at, there was a blue line out there somewhere, and I thought, if that's all taken up in right of way, there's no room for the people to do business.
Yeah, that was some of the discussion with the property owners. I will assure you, what we did was move as many utilities into the roadway as possible, and we cannot physically reduce the impact down any more than what we have. And that's what we went through with them and vetted, and we feel that we've brought forward the best proposal we can, given the utility infrastructure that we got to deal with out there.
Well, I mean, what if it does have the effect that it's impossible to do business there after we get the right of way?
Missy,
And
I
I've-
think I know who you're talking about, and I'm not gonna say, but they're leasing, so it could be that the building owner got the correspondence from the city
Right.
and not the leaser.
And
I'll say something to you later, but thank you.
All right. I've got another question for you. Back up to the McEwen project. Can you tell me when the property owners will be hearing from you about the appraisals? Because
So once we make a submittal to TDOT, our plan is to go down there and meet with them to find out expectations on when to hear back comments from them. What we're looking for is, at a high level, the plans look good, and there's not going to be major changes. Now, anytime you submit to TDOT or another government agency, there's always going to be comments that we're going
Right.
to have to address. But once we figure out what that schedule is, then we're going to start lining these appraisers up to go out. So like I said, we're going to be submitting this week. Hopefully in 2 weeks, we'll be able to sit down with TDOT and better understand expectations of when we can, at risk, go to right of
when you
way.
say you're going to be submitting this week, you're talking about for the appraisals.
We're
with-
submitting
with
this
them.
week for the roadway construction drawings,
Oh,
the
the
actual
draw-
design. So we want to get their design division to conceptually bless it, high level, the big aspects of it, not worrying about all the little details in the plans.
I need to put out an email, so I just need to know. We'll talk after the meeting,
Okay.
too. And the other thing is the roundabout improvements at McEwen. They're out there with the bulldozers. I just saw them starting on the one section. So how's that coming? Is there any issues there?
It's been a little slow to start out with. They're
Yeah.
working to relocate the water line out there, and we just had a status meeting with them today and kind of we expressed our frustration with them not getting a little more further into the project than we had expected them to be.
Yeah.
They've assured us they're gonna adjust their schedule and get more crews on there.
Yeah, people have seen the barrels out there for a month or more, and nothing much has happened. And so they're relocating the water lines right now, but
That's
they're
what they're
moving
currently
ahead
working.
on that. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Eric.
And I think what I got an update today on this as well, an updated schedule is expected. so
We
that-
expect to have that by
Yeah.
Wednesday of next
What
week.
what worries me, it says it's supposed to be done in February, and then, in the winter months, you can't lay the
Right.
surface.
Exactly.
You can't lay the
We had
surface.
the same concern.
And then the only other thing, and I didn't see it on here because we're not doing it, but do you know anything about the widening of Liberty Pike from Carruthers to the college? That's been supposed to, this developer driven, believe South Star, Ralph Canals was on that, and it was delayed because of Mill Crofton, it was delayed because of Mallory Valley, and all the utilities, and then all that construction. So what's going on? Do we know?
I know that they're still having some issues with the utilities, and so we're getting involved to help figure that out.
We need to move that on.
And I do not have a schedule from them, but once we get the utilities figured out, we can see what we can find out and pass it
Yeah,
along.
can you make sure you get with them like really soon?
Yep.
And get
Yeah.
back with me, because I need to know what's happening there. I keep getting questions on that too as well, and I want to know. All right, anything else? Any other questions of any other items on the list?
None on
Very good. All right, is there anything else?
I have a question when we finish that.
All right, we are done with the capital project status report. Alderman Martin, what would you like to comment
I
on?
had a call this week from someone that lives in, on Sunrise Circle. Isn't that
This district,
your district?
yes, it is.
They want a traffic light there. You know,
Yeah, I know.
can you get it for them?
It's Ward 2, we can get traffic lights in about 3 months.
The
Well-
best we can do is to submit that request to Adam, and we'll pass that
We'll have to
along.
review that.
Please do. Please.
Yeah. When,
I told her,
when we put signals in, they're warranted signals. We don't just do them by request, as you know.
yes.
Okay.
But I told her that I would bring this to you.
What?
Sometimes you don't get them if they're warranted.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And if you have a contact that you can pass us, we can follow up with those individuals.
The request is connected to the proposed
Proposed
development.
development.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
it is.
okay.
Yes.
So, I mean,
It'll be
And I
evaluated.
don't know if
Okay.
they
and
wanna
I've
know
told
that.
them that.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, good.
Right.
Isn't that awfully close to this?
Yeah,
Glad you got it.
I'm on it.
All right.
Glad you did.
All right, anything else? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn? All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.